Trading shame. So, trading shame operates or can operate like a hidden virus in your trading psychology, quietly sabotaging your decisions whilst remaining largely invisible to conscious awareness. So, you might recognize its symptoms: the crushing weight of regret after a losing trade, the paralyzing fear of making another mistake, or the exhausting cycle of perfectionism that makes every market decision feel like a referendum on your worth as a person. Now, unlike other trading challenges that announce themselves clearly, like lack of technical knowledge or insufficient capital, shame works in disguising itself as a helpful self-criticism or necessary caution. Shame is fundamentally different from guilt. Those two are often confused. Guilt says I made a mistake, while shame declares I am a mistake. Guilt focuses on behavior that can be changed. Shame attacks your core identity and self-worth. Now, in trading, this distinction becomes crucial because healthy guilt about poor decisions can motivate improvement, whilst toxic shame creates paralysis and self-sabotage. Now, today we'll explore exactly how shame undermines trading success, examine the research on shame and decision-making, help you recognize shame patterns in your own trading, and provide evidence-based strategies for building shame resilience. Your trading struggles don't reflect your inadequacy or lack of potential. They reflect normal human responses to challenging circumstances, often complicated by shame that makes everything harder than it needs to be. Now let's dive in. I hope you enjoy the presentation. Why shame destroys trading performance. Shame creates a cascade of psychological and physiological responses that directly interfere with the cognitive and emotional capabilities required for successful trading. When you experience shame, your brain's threat detection system becomes hyperactivated, constantly scanning for signs of danger and judgment or even rejection. Now, in trading, this means your nervous system treats market uncertainty as a personal threat rather than a normal condition to navigate. The resulting hypervigilance makes it difficult to assess market information objectively because your brain is focused on protecting you from perceived threats to your self-worth. Shame consumes significant mental resources that would otherwise be available for market analysis and decision making. When part of your cognitive capacity is dedicated to managing feelings of inadequacy or self-attack, you have less mental bandwidth available for processing information. Now, research in cognitive psychology shows that emotional distress can reduce working memory capacity by up to 30%, making it significantly harder to track multiple variables. Now, remember, important technical levels or executing trading strategies is really important in trading. Now, shame fundamentally alters how you perceive and respond to risk. When shame is present, losses feel threatening because they represent not just financial setbacks, but confirmation of feared inadequacy. This distorted risk perception leads to either risk or excessive risk aversion, avoiding trades that might result in losses, or the other side, seeking behavior where you take increasingly large risks to prove your worth or recover from shameful failures. Now, be mindful, shame can severely impair your ability to learn from both winning and losing trades. When losses trigger shame responses, your brain shifts into defensive mode rather than learning mode. Be mindful of this again. Instead of analyzing what went wrong and how to improve, you might ruminate on personal inadequacies or develop justifications for why the loss wasn't your fault. Research on learning theory shows that shame-based self-criticism actually inhibits the neuroprocesses required for skill development and pattern recognition. Now, perhaps most damaging to trading performance is shame's tendency to create decision-making paralysis. When every decision carries the weight of potential self-judgment, the act of choosing becomes overwhelming. You might spend hours analyzing charts without taking action, constantly second-guessing your analysis. Shame triggers physical responses too, which is increased cortisol, elevated heart rate, muscle tension, and shallow breathing that directly interfere with clear thinking and calm decision-making. Now, these physiological changes can persist for hours after shame-triggering events. This can affect your ability to trade effectively, even in situations unrelated to the original trigger. Understanding these patterns isn't meant to excuse poor trading decisions, but to help you recognize that shame-based trading struggles represent predictable responses to emotional stress. Research around psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral economics reveals the specific ways shame can impair the cognitive processes essential for effective trading. So, research demonstrates that shame significantly reduces cognitive capacity across multiple domains. Studies measuring working memory performance shows that participants experiencing shame-based emotion perform 15 to 25% worse on tasks required for attention and complex thinking. Brain imaging studies show fMRI technology shows that shame activates the anterior. So, recognizing shame in your trading behavior. Now, shame often operates below conscious awareness, making it crucial to develop skill in recognizing its subtle manifestations in your trading patterns and behavior. Your body often recognizes shame before your conscious mind does. Common physical signs include chest tightness or difficulty breathing when reviewing losing trades, or maybe a sinking feeling in your stomach when considering entering trades. Even tension in your shoulders and jaw during market hours. Now, some traders notice their hands shaking when placing orders, especially after recent losses, or experience headaches during or after trading sessions that involve emotional difficulty. Shame creates emotional signatures that differ from other trading-related emotions like frustration or disappointment. This foundation of shame is feeling fundamentally flawed or inadequate rather than simply disappointed about outcomes. You might notice thoughts like, I'm not cut out for this, or I'm just not good enough, rather than that trade didn't work out, or I just need to adjust my strategy. Now, persistent feelings of imposter syndrome, believing that any success is undeserved or temporary, often indicates underlying shame about your capability as a trader. Shame drives specific behavioral patterns that can be easier to observe than internal emotional states. So, excessive secrecy about trading results, even when trusted friends or family, often reflects shame about performance of fear or judgment. Perfectionist behaviors are common shame responses, spending excessive time on analysis to avoid any possibility of being wrong or avoiding trades entirely. The way you think about trading outcomes often reveals shame-based patterns. All or nothing thinking about performance, viewing yourself as completely successful or completely failed, typically stems from shame-based identity with trading results. Catastrophic thinking, where single losses or drawdowns feels like evidence of complete incompetence, reflects shame tendency to generalize from specific events to global self-worth. When you have these persistent thoughts about past trading mistakes, especially when they're attached to being self-critical, it often indicates shame rather than productive learning reflection. So pay careful attention to your internal dialogue during and after trading sessions. So let's look at cognitive strategies for shame resilience. Now, building resilience against shame requires developing specific cognitive tools that help you respond differently to the inevitable challenges and setbacks that are part of trading. The foundation of shame resilience lies in learning to recognize and challenge shame-based thoughts when they arise. Shame typically generates thoughts that are global, so I'm terrible at this, or I'll never be successful, or it's all my fault. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm a terrible trader, pause and ask, is this thought based on evidence or emotion? Then consider more balanced alternatives. I'm learning to trade and having some challenges, which is normal. So, through this approach, it can help you identify patterns in shame-based thinking. When you notice shame arising, write down the specific thought, the emotion it creates, the intensity of that emotion, and then develop a more balanced perspective. For example, I should have seen that reversal coming. The emotion was shame, inadequacy. The intensity was 8 out of 10. So the balance thought is market reversals happen frequently and aren't always predictable. This is a learning opportunity rather than a personal failure. Now, one of the most powerful cognitive strategies involves learning to observe your thoughts and emotions rather than being completely identified with them. When shame-based thoughts appear, practice saying, I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not good enough, rather than I'm not good enough. This subtle shift creates psychological distance that requires shame's emotional impact whilst maintaining awareness of what you're experiencing. Now, a crucial cognitive shift involves learning to separate your sense of self-worth from trading outcomes. Shame typically fuses identity with performance, making every loss feel like personal failure and every win feel temporary or undeserved. So I want you to practice language that maintains this separation. I had a losing trade rather than I'm a loser. My strategy didn't work in those conditions rather than I don't know what I'm doing. Do you see how this can really shift things? So when shame arises, it typically fixates on perceived inadequacies rather than learning opportunities. Consciously redirecting attention toward learning can transform shame-inducing situations into growth experiences. After difficult trades, ask yourself, what can this teach me about markets, my strategy, or my psychology? Shame often creates rigid thinking patterns that interpret situations in only one way. Developing cognitive flexibility, the ability to consider multiple perspectives, reduces shame by providing alternative interpretations or events. So practice asking, what are 3 different ways I could interpret this situation? Now let's talk about self-compassion, building self-compassion in trading. Self-compassion represents perhaps the most powerful antidote to trading shame. Research demonstrates that self-compassion, treating yourself with the same kindness you'd offer a good friend, significantly improves resilience and performance. So the 3 components of self-compassion. Self-kindness involves treating yourself with gentleness during difficult moments rather than being self-critical. So, for example, when a trade goes against you, instead of attacking yourself with thoughts like, I'm so stupid, self-kindness responds with, this is disappointing, and it's understandable that I'm upset. Common humanity recognizes that struggles, mistakes, and setbacks are part of the shared human experience rather than the evidence of personal inadequacy. Mindfulness involves observing your thoughts and emotions with balanced awareness rather than being overwhelmed by them or suppressing them entirely. So the self-compassion break provides a structured way to respond shame-inducing trading situations. This is a practical self-compassion technique for traders. When you notice shame arising, place your hands on your heart or your hand and acknowledge this is a moment of suffering. Then remind yourself suffering is part of learning. Finally, offer yourself kindness. May I be patient with myself as I learn and grow. Feel that development. Feel your heart center opening. So developing your compassionate inner voice. Most traders have developed harsh internal critics that attack them during moments. Self-compassion involves consciously creating a kinder inner voice that offers support during challenges. Practice speaking to yourself as you would a loved one. Apply this same tone and perspective to your own self-talk during these difficulties and challenges. Now, self-compassionate goal setting. Traditional goal setting in trading often creates shame when targets aren't met. Self-compassion goal setting focuses on process rather than outcomes, emphasizing learning and growing over performance results. So instead of saying, I will make 20% returns this quarter, try with, I will consistently follow my trading plan and learn from every trade. Self-compassion fundamentally changes how you relate to trading failures and mistakes. So instead of viewing losses as evidence of not being good enough, self-compassion sees them as information that you're learning and growing. Now, when trades don't work out, practice responding with this. This didn't go as planned, and it's disappointing. What lesson and what can this teach me? So as we come to the end of the presentation, let's talk about trading with dignity and confidence. Now, overcoming trading shame ultimately leads to a relationship with trading that honors your dignity as a human being while supporting sustainable success. True trading success encompasses more than financial returns. It includes emotional stability, consistent execution of sound strategies, continuous learning from experiences, and maintaining healthy relationships despite trading pressures. When success is defined more broadly, those setbacks don't threaten your entire sense of accomplishment and self-worth. Healing trading shame is ultimately about integrating all aspects of your trading experiences, wins, losses, mistakes, and successes, all into one combination of growth and learning. This integration allows you to own your entire trading journey without shame, whilst remaining motivated for continued improvement. Healing trading shame is an ongoing process rather than a destination. The skills you develop for recognizing and addressing shame will serve you throughout your trading career and in all other areas of your life. Now, the goal isn't to eliminate all different difficult emotions, but to respond to challenges from a place of self-respect, realistic expectations, and genuine care for your well-being. Your trading journey is ultimately a journey of personal development, and addressing shame is one of the most important investments you can make in both your trading success and your overall well-being. I hope you enjoyed this presentation today, and I look forward to seeing you next time.